Hey everybody, this is Nocturnal from 4botters, and this is the first Conquer client modification tutorial, and this is just going over the basics of a Conquer client and what you can and can't do with it. Sorry. First we're going to look at the folder types. Now this is a 5065 client, so just keep that in mind that everything I'm showing you now might not be the same process for another client that's like 4267 or like 5660 or anything like that. It might not be the same. But the first folder we're going to look at is the Annie folder. This contains animations and stuff. And yeah, that's kind of it. There's not really too much in there. That's about it. That's kind of it. So the C3 folder, however, is a big folder, and this is where most of your data is. In this folder we have stuff like effects, hair, any files, meshes, NPCs, textures, monsters, stuff like that. And so textures are very easy to mod, and to mod them you just need Photoshop and a .dds plugin by NVIDIA. And in later tutorials I'll be going more in depth with this, and I'll show you how to get that. But yeah, this is your texture files, how to make swords look different and armors look different, garments, stuff like that. Next we have effects, like second metempsychosis, which is your second reborn. This is the aurora that kind of circles around your character when you're second reborn, and you can edit most of these in here, and it's not too hard. It's the same as the texture files. And here we got the mesh folder, and these are your .c3 files, and these are objects that the game loads and applies a texture to. So like if you have a ball in Conquer Online, this .c3 file is the shape of your ball. This is the ball itself. The texture file is what the ball looks like wrapped over the object file, if you know what I'm saying. I'll go more into depth with that later. This is your data file, which is kind of like mainly your interface options. In the main folder, for instance, if you go down here, here's all of your server icons, and they all look different down here. And here's where you also have the legendary start.dat file, and this will be given its own unique video, because it's pretty crucial to customizing your client. So I'll go over that with its own thing. But yeah, this data file or data folder, this is mainly just interface stuff. So yeah, debug really isn't important. Neither is the help files, unless you create your own help files. The any folder is pretty important. These are configuration files that you can edit, and I'll be going over those in the tutorial. And these are pretty important too as well. The log folder, which really isn't too important. The map folder, which is very important if you learn how to do or how to make map edits. I honestly don't know how to do this yet, but I'm going to learn how, and once I learn how, I'll give a tutorial on it. But yeah, so that's the map folder. The play folder is not important, because that corresponds to the play.exe file, which I've deleted from this folder. The screenshot folder is where your screenshots get dumped to once you take them in game, pressing F12. The sound folder is where all of your audio files are, and they have a file in here called main.mp3, I believe. Music.mp3, and that's your login screen music. And the music on this client, I honestly believe it's not very good, so I'm going to change that someday. But for now, that's it. Let's see. Okay. These two files, C3 and data.wdf, these are kind of like extraction packages, and it's basically like TQ's own version of a .zip or a .rar. And if you download a special extraction tool, which I'll go over in a later tutorial, you can extract these files, and it will give you your C3 folder, but a lot more stuff. There's a reason why there's a C3 folder and some stuff here, and a C3.wdf file, if you're wondering. Like if you're wondering, like, oh, like, why is there a C3 folder when you just said that c3.wdf has everything the C3 folder has, but bigger, and I'll explain that in another tutorial. And the data.wdf is the same thing, but with the data folder. It has all the original files and stuff, and a lot more files. The next file you'll need to know about, which I have hidden, is the conquer.exe, and that's right here. Conquer.exe. And that's pretty much the main point of your game, like, you know. I'm going to come back to that. Next, you have your server.dat. If you edit. Oh, by the way, when editing configuration files and kind of basically any file that's not, like, it doesn't have its own coding IDE for, I would definitely use Notepad++. It's just a lot nicer, and it even has stuff where you can set the language of what your file is. But, yeah, so just keep that in mind. I'll have a link in the description for that. So yeah, this is where your server info is. Like, if, here, where it says dark, I could put that to my server. Change the IP to my server's IP address. Change port 1 to my authentication port. Server name to my server, and the pick to whatever server file or server flash screen I wanted to, and I'll go more in depth on that in another tutorial. That's actually more for server stuff, so I'll go on that in another set of tutorials someday. But yeah, the next file you'll need to know about is the version.dat. This file says what version your client is. And retail Conquer Online clients, this will be the version of your client. However, when in a lot of P servers, what you'll notice is that people will change the client to how they want to upload and have their members download, and then change the version to 1000. This means that this is version 1.0 of your client. And every time you release a new patch, you just go in increments by 1, just like that. So yeah, finally, we'll be going back to the conquer.exe. And as you can see, I've deleted my play.exe file, and in retail versions of the client, and retail just means the original client, nothing's been modified yet. In retail versions, the conquer.exe, if you double click on it, it'll bring up a message like this: hey, please run play.exe. Well, you can bypass that by making a shortcut by right clicking conquer.exe, going to create shortcut. It then creates this shortcut. Right click that, go to your properties, click anywhere and hit end, or just go to the end, and it will look like this: conquer or whatever /conquer.exe. But what you can do is you hit your space bar and enter in black mode, and what that does is that bypasses the need for a play.exe. And yeah, so that's pretty much about it for now, and I hope you've learned some stuff, and yeah, there's more tutorials to come, so let's keep that in mind. Thanks, everybody.